This podcast contains explicit language and is for mature audiences only. If you're under 18, this show is intended more for your parents.
So, take that mental image with you and get back to doing your homework. We are a couple choosing to share our personal experiences and opinions that should in no way be misconstrued as professional advice.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I'm Mr. Jones.
And I'm Mrs. Jones.
And we'd like to welcome you back to episode number 4 of the We Got a Thing podcast.
So we're going to invite you to spend the next hour or so with us as we share our adventures in the swinging lifestyle and discuss topics centered around sex-positive, open-minded relationships.
Yeah, and as you can tell, Mrs. Jones you lost your voice for about 10 days.
Yes, I lost my voice on New Year's Eve, and it's not because I was like screaming or being wild and crazy.
You were, but...
I was, but yeah, there's been some sort of a bug going around, and it's been one of those bugs where you're not flat on your back sick, but yeah, I lost my voice, and it has been so frustrating. So I apologize in advance for all the gravel. This is the best I got right now.
No, I think you sound sexy. You sound like Kathleen Turner.
Oh, good, because I know you got a thing for her.
Yeah, the whole Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah.
So anyway, we knew this was going to happen. So let's just start right off and say, when we decided to get into the lifestyle, we were pretty intentional about staying away from home and engaging with people on vacation and outside of our state and local area, because we had a concern that we would run into somebody we know, because we've been in this community for a long time, in this area for a long time. So we finally decided to start reaching out and developing a local network, and we've mentioned that. And it's been going rather well. And then we've not been real aggressive in managing our websites. We've basically been responding to people, for the most part, who've reached out to us. And it wasn't too long ago that I decided, I said, you know what? We usually say yes to just about everybody who...
Well, what you were doing is you were looking around. We went to a New Year's Eve party, a lifestyle New Year's Eve party. And on SLS in Cassidy, there was a way where people could RSVP that they were going to this party. So Mr. Jones was looking around to see if there was anybody in our community going up into the city to this party. So he found somebody that had RSVP'd that was in our community.
Right.
So he decided that he would go ahead and reach out to them.
Right. And it said that they lived in our town. But, you know, I guess the population here is, 75,000? Or?
Oh, no, it's like 150,000 just in our community, yeah.
So just because they live in our area didn't mean that, you know, we would know them. So how it started was I sent them a message in SLS and said, I noticed that you all are going to the same party we're going to. You live in the area. Looks like our profiles match up. You know, would you care to get together beforehand and meet? And then...
So they said, yes, why don't we meet for drinks at a restaurant that's about, 20 minutes away or whatever.
Right. So they said that we live between this exit and that exit, and I replied and said, well, that's about the same area of the county we live in, so you know maybe we should meet at this particular place, which is down south. And I said, we live off of this road. Well, then they emailed back and said, oh, well, we live off of that road too. We live in this community. And as soon as I got that message back, I started laughing, and I called you down to look, because the community that they named was our community.
Which is not that big of a neighborhood.
Yeah, how many houses are in here? But
not even 100.
Yeah, so
it's a pretty small community.
So once we laughed about that and kind of decided, well, we're in now. We've got to go through with this. We can't.
And we know
out.
a lot of people in our neighborhood. We've lived in this house for 7 years, so.
Right. So then I came back and I said, well, we live in that neighborhood and we live on this particular street. And then they came back and said, oh my goodness, we live on the same street and here's our house number. And it turns out that their house is about
7 houses away.
Yeah, 7 houses down. So we had a good laugh about that, in between a little bit of nervous laughter as well, because we always joked about, walking the neighborhood and thinking, I wonder if anybody in here is in the lifestyle.
You got to figure that, the odds are with you. If there's 100 houses in our neighborhood, somebody else has got to be in the lifestyle. So we were like, well, it's ridiculous to drive 20 minutes to go meet up for drinks. Just, walk on up the street and we'll pop open a bottle of wine. And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah. So they came up, and they're a really nice couple, and they haven't been in the neighborhood that long.
I think about a year. Yeah.
Right. And they have a home in another part of the state. And so they had not listed our county as their primary residence in the past. That's why we never came up on a search. So after we talked about it with them for a while, it really made sense why we hadn't connected, and them being new to the neighborhood, and we just hadn't met them before. So anyway, they did come up. We enjoyed the conversation, got to know them a little bit, and laughed that we were going to be able to have like lifestyle progressive dinner parties now. We could start at one house and end at the other house.
Yeah, just walk down the street and move it along.
Right.
So we ended up running into them at the New Year's party, and they're a really great couple.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, we'll probably continue the conversation, even if we never, have the chemistry to play with them. It'll just always be neat to go to, the neighborhood picnics and kind of wink at each other and be able to have these kind of subtle conversations between the four of us while everybody else is around. I'm looking forward to that. That should be fun.
So now the question is, who else in this neighborhood is in the lifestyle?
Well, yeah, that topic came up.
We got to start, people will start popping up when we least expect it, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's that story. And I think what I learned from that is, I made a bigger deal out of the whole thing, because there's this fear that you have that you're going to run into somebody and that they're going to run up and down the neighborhood streets with a megaphone, yelling out Mr. and Mrs. Jones are in the lifestyle. And but then, after we met them, and they're a really nice, down to earth couple, and I'm like, that wasn't as scary as we thought it was going to be. And
no, because they are too.
Yeah,
so,
they are too.
Hey.
Right.
We both have a dirty little secret.
Right.
A hot, dirty little secret.
Right. So that was a very interesting start to this month, and I knew a few people were interested to know how that turned out, and we'll see how the relationship progresses. But we had a great evening with them, mostly laughing about that we were so close. So what else have we been up to?
Well, I think right after we recorded our podcast last month, we were talking about how we were getting ready to do naughty stockings because it was right before Christmas. So we did our naughty stockings, and it was another successful, hot, sexy event.
Yeah, I kind of
Santa was very good to us.
Yeah, I don't know why I do this. I think I do this about every year. I buy you lingerie, and then I buy you something that you already have.
Yeah, he bought me two things I already have. So either he doesn't pay attention, or he sees it on the website that he's shopping on online, and he's like, hey, she would look really hot in that. And he's reflecting, real life, I guess. I don't know.
Or I didn't update the wish list from last time. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, that could be.
And as soon as it came, I don't know why I didn't recognize it when I ordered it, but as soon as the package came and I opened up, I said, uh-oh, I've seen this before. But I went ahead and put it in a stocking anyway.
But the other duplicate thing he bought me, it was perfect because it's a little like club dress that you would wear like at Desire to dinner or, to the disco in the evening. And I have the dress, but I have it in white and I love it. It's one of my favorite dresses. It just fits really well and I feel really comfortable in it, which makes me feel more confident. And he bought it in black instead of white. So actually he was brilliant to do that because I really, really love it. And now I can wear basically the same dress 2 different nights. One's in white and one's in black.
Right.
So you're really a genius, honey.
Yeah, right.
Not just for forgetful old guy.
Uh-huh. Well, so you got some lingerie and then a couple of card games that I think you bought off of, which website did you get those?
What is it called? Great Sex Games. It's through the Sex is Fun podcast. Mm-hmm. They have the website and they have all of the different games that they sell. So I got the one that I think is called the Sex is Fun game. Right. And that's basically designed for a couple. to play just the two people. So we've played that once, and that was pretty fun.
Right.
And then I bought one, and shoot, I can't remember the name of it, but it's made for 4 or more people to play. So when you're having some sort of a lifestyle evening with other couples, it's kind of along the lines of truth or dare, but it's got different categories, and it just really it looks like it has a lot of variety to it, because truth or dare can kind of get monotonous after a while.
Right. And what we'll do, maybe give you some more insight on that once we play a couple times, and then. But really, the main event for the Naughty Stocking evening was Mrs. Jones got me a massage table for my birthday, which was a week before Christmas, and you got a 10-gallon jug of coconut oil or something.
Good old Costco.
Yeah. So I got my first massage, and that was very fun and erotic and relaxing and everything that we expect it to be. And that table is nice. What a big difference it is to be on that table instead of on the bed. You're able to walk around and get leverage, and you can raise it and lower it so it's at a good height for you.
Yeah, because Mr. Jones is 11 inches taller than me, so it's really good to be able to adjust that, because it's hard to find a happy medium for us.
Yeah, so that was, and we'll probably talk about that more in the future, because since then, I gave you a massage too, and that was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It felt good, and it was fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when you're home by yourself, it can be whatever kind of happy ending you want it to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure I was as good as your friend Manuel from Desire, but...
Well, you have something to aspire to,
yeah,
honey.
Right.
Maybe we could go back and you could, watch his magic.
Yeah, I would like to watch that again. So that's what we've been up to. And as Adele introduces us to our next topic of the evening, which was a New Year's party that we went to with the James Bond theme. We went to that in downtown, and it was put on by Sinnergy. We were looking forward to this for a long time. And, our last podcast episode was a pretty heavy topic about jealousy. So we were really looking forward to kind of coming back and talking about the fun that we were able to have on New Year's, and we did have a great time.
It was really different for us. We've never done anything like this before. So, to go away and get dressed up. Mr. Jones bought a tuxedo so he could really get into the James Bond theme. And I think there were some cufflinks in your Naughty Stocking. And then I even found they make a cologne called James Bond 007 cologne, and it comes in 3 different scents. So just for fun, I bought that, and it actually smelled pretty good.
So which James Bond did I look like?
Oh gosh, I have that thing. Wow, oh my gosh, I have the thing for so many of them, but Pierce Brosnan always kind of did it for me. Mm-hmm. Daniel Craig, he's got the charisma and the chemistry and everything, but and he's got a pretty nice body too.
Yeah.
But Pierce Brosnan just has those amazing eyes.
So it's okay. Pierce Brosnan from James Bond, but not Pierce Brosnan from that ABBA movie that he did. That's a totally different. What was he was with Meryl Streep.
Yeah, I know. Oh, shoot. What was that one?
I don't know. We'll have to look it up. But okay, I'll take that as a compliment. Yeah. So anyway, I had a tux, and you had a black dress that we took a picture of, and that is going to be on the website if I didn't put it on there already. Oh, you're a Santa, by the way. Your Santa outfit is on our website too.
Oh, you mean my Mrs. Claus?
Your Mrs. Claus outfit. So anyway, yeah, back to our party. It was a complete hotel takeover in downtown, and it was really well attended. And we went up early in the afternoon, checked in early. They had a couple of workshops going on in the afternoon, and we signed up for
We did one on communication because it was the presenter was a professor from Johns Hopkins University, and so we felt like he was like pretty legit, and he teaches a multitude of things. Plus, he's also a counselor, but he teaches human sexuality. So he was very insightful as to what triggers people to want to experience non-monogamy, but he was also curious to talk to us to get kind of our take on it, because most of his clients aren't in the lifestyle. Some people will come to him and ask him, is this going to ruin my marriage, or is this going to screw me up, or whatever? So he was interested to talk to people who had experienced positive enhancements, I guess, to their relationships from dabbling in the lifestyle.
Right. And I think there's a lot we could talk about there, but the question that he said that people ask when they come to talk to him about possibly moving into a non-monogamous relationship is, why are you doing this? And that's really the first question that you need to ask each other is, why are you doing this? And he mentioned, like we've talked about before and everyone else has talked about, is, if you have a solid relationship, that's one thing. But, if you're struggling somewhere else, this really isn't the answer for that. So it was really good. It was well attended. And
he gave, and then he kind of ended it by giving all of us some advice for the evening, and one of the things he said is, don't drink too much. You want to have, a cocktail or two so that you're relaxed and not as inhibited. But he said, you really got to keep a clear head on your shoulders, because this is serious business you're dabbling in, and you need to be aware of the decisions that you're making.
Right.
So, he made it lighthearted and fun, but at the same time, he was like, be careful, because you're going to be like a kid in a candy store tonight.
Right. And it was an interesting hotel. It was nice, but there was really no large conference room or ballroom. So there were several larger rooms that were broken into different themes. And
they did a really cool job. What they did is they pretty much took each room and made it a different James Bond movie. So that was kind of cool.
Right.
They had a lot of signage and decorations inside, so you could tell which movie.
Right. And they had a casino set up in the lobby. And of course they had bars set up all over the place, and people really looked nice. I have to say, we go on a lot of cruises. We haven't been on a lifestyle cruise yet, but you always complain because not everybody gets dressed up for dinner. And this was an event where, people.
Most of the men had tuxedos on.
Most of the men had tuxes
on. The men looked fantastic.
Yeah, and the ladies had beautiful dresses on. And so it really was a James Bond, sort of an atmosphere.
Yeah, it was. And what I actually liked all of the smaller venues, that you had multiple venues, because they had, of course, the ballroom that they had was the biggest room, and they had a dance floor set up, of course, and there was really fun music in there, and that was fun to spend some time in there. And then they had a smaller room that they had a DJ in as well, playing a different style of music. And then you had like the lobby area, and then the bar and dining areas set up where you could, of course, get drinks and you could mingle. And it was nice in there because you could still hear music, right, but you could talk.
Right.
I don't know if I'm just getting old and grumpy, but it's really hard for me to approach somebody I don't know and try to start up a conversation with them when the music is so loud that you have to scream in their ear.
I'm sure our ages have something to do with it, but really, the whole purpose there is to get to know people.
Right.
And if you can't talk to people, and my voice doesn't carry that well anyway, and you get into a big room and there's a lot of noise, and a lot of times I'll just shut down because I don't, but so anyway, to be able to move in and out of those rooms and talk to people, and they had hors d'oeuvres set up in a different place, and it was just a very nice layout. And this is the first time we've ever done anything like this on New Year's Eve, vanilla or not. We usually stay home. And so our friends and family kept saying, well, why are you going up to town to have this, to go to this party? And we said, well, we've never done this before, and something that we're interested in. And we really want to work on our social skills as a couple. And we kind of laughed about that because
our social skills.
Our idea of social skills is, I think, a little bit different than.
It's broader than I'm sure what they were thinking of.
Right,
yes.
Right. So let's talk about the evening. We went out to dinner to a local restaurant, and really, I don't remember the name of it, but it was downtown. We're in Washington D.C. It was a small place that it was during
It
happy
was like
hour.
a little Italian restaurant, but it was really more of a bar than a restaurant. It was really cute. And it was recommended to us by a couple that we have played with before. They were at the New Year's Eve party. And actually, they're the couple that spent the weekend with us right after Thanksgiving. And when they were at our house, they ended up leaving her little bag of toys. So that was one of the first things we did when we got to the hotel is we texted them and got together with them so we could switch her toys back over to their rightful owners.
Well,
and they were the ones that told us about this little restaurant.
Yeah. Well, we texted them and they said, we'll be right down. And they came in, opened the door, and I was holding the bag. And I said, you might be a swinger if your friends have to text you and return your toys that you left at their house. And so we had a nice laugh about that. So we ran into them, and that kind of, we started as the night went on, realizing the more people that we met, and I think you talked about this, like the 6 degrees of separation in a lifestyle, that doesn't really apply.
No, there's only like 2 or 3 degrees of separation.
Yeah, every person, it seems like every couple we met knew somebody that we knew, and we haven't really been at this a long time.
No.
It was fascinating. And then a couple would walk up and say, "Oh, I see you're talking to them. We just met them at the meet and greet, or we met them here." So it's really a lot smaller of a community, I think, than people think.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we went out to dinner, came back, got dressed, and came downstairs, and the bar was open. And so, which adventure should we talk about first?
Well, what I really liked about it is that there was a really wide range of people there. I think we've told you guys before, when we went to the Sinnergy event in July, we were like the grandma and grandpa of the party practically, and it was really kind of intimidating to be with so many younger people without hardly anybody there your age at all. But this was just a really nice spectrum of ages. So you could feel comfortable talking to anybody because you never really felt like the outcast. You fit in somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So then we should probably talk about that drunk couple that we...
Yeah. So we were trying to belly back up to the bar, and it was like midway through the evening to get another cocktail, and the bar was really, really crowded. It was like 2 or 3 people deep. So Mr. Jones said, well, I'll go ahead and try to work my way in, and you just kind of wait here. So I didn't have to just add to the crowd up there. So as he was trying to work his way up, there was a couple next to him, and all of a sudden the lady comes over to me and she said, you have a really beautiful smile. And I said, well, thank you. And her husband turned around and said, see, I told you it would work. So they had set up this little...
Well, she was really trying much too hard. I mean, her first, and I was still standing there at the time, and her first comment to you was very complimentary. And it could be, if she would have stopped right there, it would have been, oh, well, she just noticed you, and it was nice of her to say. But then she kept overtly flirting with you and telling you how gorgeous you are and how beautiful. And normally I don't do this, but I just think you're so attractive. And about midway through that, the first thing I thought of was, well, obviously you're trying too hard. I'm not sure what's going on. But then I realized how much they had been drinking, and it really wasn't that late.
No, it was probably like 10 o'clock. It was not
Right.
even close to midnight at this point.
Right. And they were a bit younger than us. And so every time you mentioned, how old our kids were and all this stuff, and she kept saying, get out. You can't be. And and she was, grabbing onto you. And
Yeah, but I quickly figured out the reason she was grabbing onto me is because she was wasted.
she was drunk.
She was using me to stand up.
So we tried to engage them in a conversation. We tried to kind of refocus their attention on, hey, let's introduce ourselves. And we found out early on in the conversation that not only are they new to the lifestyle, but this was the very, very first event that they've ever been to in a lifestyle setting.
Yeah, I think they were pretty nervous.
Yeah,
That was probably the reason for the overconsumption of alcohol.
Yeah, and the first thing when they said when they realized we had a little bit of experience, they were really interested in asking questions. And the first thing I wanted to say, but I didn't because I didn't want to scare them off, was, well, the first rule is you don't drink as much as you drink because you're not going to remember any of this anyway.
We didn't see him much after that. I'm pretty sure she was upstairs asleep before midnight.
Yeah,
I don't know how much longer she could have stood up.
yeah, and he was. I mean, they were an attractive couple.
They were very attractive.
And
it's a
too bad.
shame.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, too bad they
that
drank
could have
too
gone
much.
somewhere.
Yeah. Anyway, you told him. You said.
We were talking about, they were asking us questions about, well, how do you know when it's like the right couple to play with, or how far do you go? How far did you go the first time, you were with a couple, and how did you know when to stop, and just those basic questions. Because I don't think they had really even done a lot of research. I think they just kind of said, let's just go here and see what happens.
Right.
So, and then I think once they got there, they realized that they might be over their heads emotionally, and hence the alcohol. But anyway, so what I said to him is I said, that our philosophy at first was we would rather go home regretting something that we didn't do than to go home and regret something saying, oh my gosh, what did we just do?
Right. But see, when you said that though, it blew his mind, and he was like, whoa, what did you just say? That was pretty heavy. Say that again. He says, well, you said you'd rather go home regretting something you didn't do than what you did do. Oh, that's awesome. And then,
he made me feel like a genius.
Yeah. And then the questions started coming, more, and we said, look, we don't, normally we don't tell people we have a podcast because it's kind of distracting. And I said, well, you seem to have a lot of questions. I tell you what, when you sober up tomorrow, here's our website, go here and take a listen and contact us or listen to the podcast.
So if you guys are listening, it's just too bad that, we didn't get to talk to you guys again.
Yeah, they were really
because I think she typed the name of our website into her phone.
Oh, did she?
I think she managed to do that.
Yeah. So hopefully, I'm sure you all, if you are listening, you've learned, lesson number one is don't drink quite so much next time. But,
I know. And if you are listening, send us an email and maybe we can get together.
Yeah. Oh, that was fun.
That was fun.
So anyway, so we met them, and then I think we got hungry. Oh, yeah, we got some hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah, so then we went and got some hors d'oeuvres, and it was kind of crowded, and they had it was kind of they had changed the dining room around to take out the normal table and chairs, and they had a couple standing tables where maybe 4 or 6 people could kind of stand around tables and eat their hors d'oeuvres with their drinks and stuff. So we got our little snacks, and we were kind of standing in the middle of the dining area figuring out what we were going to do, because you know how it is when you got their plate and your drink and there's no hands to put your food into your mouth. So we're like, okay, we're going to have to do something. And there was a couple standing by themselves at this standing table for 6, and their backs were to us, so we couldn't really see what they looked like. But I said, well, let's just go over here and see if we can stand with these guys. So we did, and of course, once we got to meet them face to face, they were a very attractive couple, and they were about our age, and we just managed to strike up a conversation with them while we were eating. So
right, so we'll give you credit for that.
Yes, that was my score.
And the first thing that they said was, boy, we're glad we're out here because it's kind of loud, in there. And we were like, oh, good, a couple that really wants to have a conversation. And,
yes.
Doesn't think you need to be in there standing next to the speakers. And so we talked with them for a long time, got to know them. And then, as the evening went on, we spent most of our time chatting with them, but then we met some other people, and we ran into some people that we had, met locally before. And it was just a very relaxing environment, very casual. And then we made, there were things that were going on. There was some sort of an agenda, and we made the mistake of going in to try to watch the guy that twirled the PVC pipes. They
were kind of like batons, or how in the marching band at a college football game, the girl will twirl the baton that has the ring of fire around it. that's kind of what he was attempting to do.
This was just PVC. It was PVC.
It was a dude with a tuxedo on, and had PVC pipe like glued together, like it was like something that he could twirl.
Yeah, and it was in the shape of a cube.
Well, the first one was only 2-dimensional, and he was dropping that one.
Yeah, see, he dropped it a few times, and
he was like in the middle of the dance floor in the ballroom.
Yeah, and then he was dressed up like James Bond, so.
And they had like James Bond music playing, so it was supposed to be like real dramatic and like really slick. So he starts dropping the 2-dimensional thing, and everybody's just kind of watching. I mean, everybody was being polite, nobody was booing, but.
Well, then he took his jacket off, remember? Because so he acted like it was the jacket that was messing him up. So he took his jacket off, and he like dramatically threw his jacket across the dance floor, and then he went and got the larger PVC cube.
Yeah, so this is like a huge 3-dimensional thing. When he picked that thing up, I am not kidding. I wish somebody would have videoed it. Everybody in the ballroom backed up further away from the dance floor, because everybody was like, holy shit, this thing's going to be coming at us in just about 3 seconds.
Yeah, so once we realized the level of entertainment in there, we kind of exited that room and went back out, and I think got some more to eat and went back and started talking.
They had really sexy girls like dressed up in like Bond girl outfits, dancing, and we had the time wrong or something. We screwed up and we missed that. We caught the very tail end of it.
Right. So we had a chance to talk with the couple that we met more, and then you and I had a chance to talk about what we thought about them, and did we think that we were interested in playing with them, and then there was a kind of a segue between the party and the after party.
Right.
Yeah. So the after party didn't start until I think 11:30.
No, the after party started at 12:30.
12:30.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we went back to our room and changed, because the after party
was lingerie
for the ladies, and guys were casual.
You know, guys can wear anything. Like, I had to like stress and worry about what I was going to wear to this after party. And then you look at the dress code for guys and it said casual. Okay.
I don't know.
What does that mean?
Why you were stressing. You had a corset. You had a black. Oh, you had one of the corsets I gave you for the naughty stocking, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I did have something out of my naughty stocking. That was perfect timing.
Right. So there's a black corset with black boy shorts. Is that what you call those things?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you looked really hot.
Thank you.
And so we decided we were going to leave the transition from the regular party and go to the after party. So we went back to our room. You changed, and
by this time we had decided that it was a go with the couple we had met at the table.
Right. So, but we hadn't had a conversation with them though about where we were. You know, as far as were you bisexual, were you soft swap, full swap? We hadn't really had that conversation. I think we kind of mentioned a few things during our conversation with them that might have led them to believe that we were soft swap, but really never explicitly had that conversation. So anyway, we went up to the playrooms on the second floor, and oh my gosh, was it just jam-packed, crowded.
Yeah, because there were like 500 people at this party, and I think all 500 of them decided to go to the after party.
Right.
You know, actually the couple we hooked up with were there last year as well, and it was at a different hotel. But they said that the playrooms last year were empty. They practically had the place to themselves. They said it was awesome. They had kind of the pick of whatever room they wanted to go into. So obviously the dynamic was just different this year.
Right. So they had like a central room where there was bottles of water, and people could bring their own alcohol.
And there were like couches and stuff in there.
So and then if you can imagine like a hub and a spoke. So this room was like the hub, and it had some refreshments, and that's where people were gathering to kind of mill about and talk, and then
hook up.
And then
the
spokes off of that hub were hallways to the different playrooms. So we went, and everybody was kind of like marching in single file, like ants. You know, just a trail of people coming in and out of the playrooms, and everybody was kind of just walking through, looking to see what was going on, what did they look like, and we did that. Except we found a bed almost immediately that we thought we were going to use, but then
it had a wet spot on it.
Yeah, it was a little bit.
Yeah.
So well, we didn't stay there, and then so we said, well, let's get up and walk around and try to find another playroom, and we did. And the place that we found was, so they had, and I think, weren't they like double?
Yeah, they weren't.
They
very
were double
big.
bed mattresses.
Yeah.
With just the first sheet on it. What is it?
Just the bottom fitted sheet.
Yeah, the fitted sheet on the bottom. And then they had sheer like curtains between, most of the beds.
Well, they would have like 2 double beds together, and that would be like a grouping, and then there would be sheers,
right?
Between the sets of double beds.
Right. So it's important to know that where we ended up was in a corner of the room. So there were sheer curtains. If we were sitting on our bed, there were sheer curtains behind us, and then there were sheer curtains to our right. And there were people playing on those beds behind us. But in front of us, on both the front of the bed and the side of the bed, there was about a 3-foot walkway between the end of our mattress and the wall. So we were on the circuit. So there were people that were continuously walking through this play area and around our corner. And our bed didn't have the sheer curtains around it. So we were out into the open.
We were on display.
Yeah, we were on display, which will come into play, much later in the story here. So we got down, we found a bed, and without a wet spot. And we got down, so we laid down on the bed. And about this time, I thought, well, we need to have the conversation. We at least need to talk to them.
Well, the wife and I had talked a little bit, just the 2 of us earlier. And I hadn't had a chance to really share that with you yet because we were on the little ant parade trying to find a spot.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, you could tell that they were very, low-key people, easygoing people. So I didn't really think we were going to get ourselves in an uncomfortable situation, but we did need to do a little bit better communication.
Yeah, so I just came out and asked her. I said, well, are you bisexual or are you straight or whatever? And she says, oh, that's right. You guys went to the communication seminar. You want to communicate. I said, well, just kind of want to know what we're getting ourselves into. And they laughed about it. It was really a very, easy conversation. And she said she was bisexual. And we said, oh, okay, well, that's good. And we reiterated that we were soft swap and they were fine with that. And so there was an empty double bed mattress next to us. And I was on the edge of that mattress, and he was on the very edge of our mattress, and you ladies were between us.
Right.
Okay. So then about that time, before we even started interacting with them, or about the same time, 4 other people got on the empty mattress behind me, which I was actually on. I was on the edge of that. And when they plopped down and started going at it, immediately I realized I was in their way, and so I scooted over. So all 4 of us were on a double bed mattress. But
that's okay, because about that time, I started making out with the other lady.
Yeah, you made room.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
I kind of scooted over and kind of got on top of her almost.
Yeah, so you guys were kissing, very hot, and you I think were on top of her initially, and then you kissed for a while, and then you went down on her.
Right.
Right, and your ass was sticking up in the air on the edge of the bed.
Which, in hindsight, hindsight, but it was really, when you think about it, we were on the corner, and there was literally a parade of people walking by, and there I am with my ass sticking right up in the air, going down on this lady. I had no thought to what people were seeing when they were walking by, and there was my big old white ass sticking up in the air.
But you're taking it completely out of context, because in that environment, at that point in the evening,
this was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
I mean, it was not out of place.
No, it was game on.
Yeah, it was game on, and people were, believe me, I was watching people go by. They were interested. And I think that's the biggest difference. We've played with couples before in our house and in a room where there's just the 4 of us. But when you're in a room like that, where there's people all around, the sexual energy is just so much higher, because there's the sights and the sounds and everything else that's going on.
Oh, and that's when I am an exhibitionist. I mean, I really don't want to be by myself in front of a bunch of people doing wild and crazy stuff. But knowing that people are walking by watching me charges me up, and you don't really know that about yourself until you're in that situation.
Right.
So it was kind of, we didn't pick that bed on purpose. It was the only
Right.
available bed that did not have a wet spot.
Right. But of course, and I'm a visual, I mean, I'm an exhibitionist too, but I'm a bit probably more voyeuristic than you are. So I'm able to watch you go down on her. And you did a very good job with her because she had, I don't know how many orgasms when you were going down on her.
It was very fun. She was a lovely lady.
So I was able to watch you. And then behind me, I was able to kind of peer to my right and see the two couples that were behind us. And they were attractive couples.
Yes, they were.
They were going to town. And then there were people that were parading by. Some would stop. Most of the comments were of the nature of, oh, wow, look at that. That's really hot. And so people were really, when somebody would kind of pause, it would hold up the line and people would kind of start shoving. That's almost how bad it was because people were coming through that.
See, I was kind of oblivious to that because I was really into what I was
Right.
doing. I was trying to be extremely
right.
thorough
Right.
and paying attention to detail.
Yeah, and you were because she got quite vocal when she had her first orgasm, and then you went down on her for a while, and then you switched, and she went down on you, and I was just enjoying the whole environment. I mean, at that point in time, that was, that's why we were there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that was really fun.
That was it.
But that was about when she was going down on me. That was when the guy walked by and stopped and asked you.
Right. So that was the only kind of blip, but really it wasn't that big of a deal. I was up on my elbow, and so my head was more back towards her ass that was sticking up in the air, and the other gentleman was up closer to her face because I think he was kissing her about the same time you were going down on her.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this guy's face appears in my peripheral vision right next to me, and he has his palm facing outwards towards her ass and about a couple inches from her ass, and he says, "May I touch her?" And first of all, she's not my wife, but second of all, it didn't take me instantaneously I said no. I'm gonna err on the side of caution here and say
really.
no. And he goes, "Oh, okay," and he backed right away and went back to watching. So that was a little bit of an interruption there. And then about that time, she disengaged from you, and she said, and she turned to me and she said, "Can you show me what she likes?" And well, I'd be glad to. And so
that was win-win for me because whatever she was doing was working just fine.
I feel like she had warmed you up pretty good.
Yeah, she did.
It didn't take long when I started and you finished. I mean, you had an orgasm. And then, so then after that, you kind of rolled over and started kissing him.
Yeah, because he was next to me while she was going down on me, and then you were down kind of closer to her. So as soon as I finished, I started kissing him.
Right.
And he and I started interacting.
And then I started kissing her.
Yeah.
And we kissed for a while, and then you went down on him.
Right.
And so then I rearranged myself because she wanted to go down on me. And so at that point in time, I was laying on my back. And so everything was in full view. I'm just giving you a little bit of an excuse. Everything was in. So I'm looking at the couples to my right because she goes down on me. And I don't have to make eye contact with her anymore. She's busy. And so I'm free to look around. I'm looking to my right, and there's two couples, and the two girls were on top of the guys, and they were moaning, and they were going at.
They were beautiful.
And then I looked to my left, and you were locked onto him. You were giving him a blowjob. And then there was people against the wall, that were kind of watching.
And then there were those people behind us making a lot of noise.
Yeah, so all that was going on, and about, I don't know, maybe a minute into it, I had to tap her. I had to tap out. I had to tap her on the shoulder and say, "I'm sorry, but you have to stop because I am not going to last." And all the guys will know what I'm talking about. There's this moment when you're about 10 seconds out, and that's the line that you if you cross that line, it's too late. And I was approaching that, and I said, I got to stop. And I swear I kind of just stayed there at that point. Even when she backed off of me, I still felt like if there's any sort of breeze in this room at all, it's going to happen. And I'm going to be ticked. So anyway, we didn't want to interrupt you because he had his, I'm going to just say he had his eyes closed. I should have probably done that. It probably would have been better, but And she was very good at what she was doing, So anyway, we watched you for a while, and I went to try to go back down on her, but she was still really sensitive from all the orgasms you gave her. Thank you very much for that.
Sorry, I'm greedy.
So anyway, she and I kind of just laid there watching everything, and then something else happened that I'll talk about later. But then you kind of finished with him, and then you pulled me over to your side of the bed, and she pulled him over to her side of the bed, and then you got on top of me. And fortunately, by that time, I had...
Well, you said, I'm not going to last very long. And I said, okay, I'll be gentle.
Yeah. And you were, because I think by that time I had settled down, and we were able to go at least 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, you were fine.
So. Yeah.
You were fine. Yeah. I just took it nice and slow, and I was just kind of... Well, and at that point, I got to enjoy my surroundings because... at first I was going down on her, so my face was between her legs.
Right.
I couldn't see anything
that's
except
why
for her, which was a nice view, but
right.
but I wasn't really able to take it all in. And then when she was going down on me, or when you go down on me, I just end up clamping my eyes shut, and I just get lost in my own little world.
Right.
And so I wasn't really able to kind of look around because I was like really, really into what you guys were doing to me.
Okay, well... Anyway, what she was doing to me, she just barely had her mouth around the head of my cock, and she was just, I don't know, it was airtight, and she was sucking on it. So I'm gonna have to get you to do that again when I'm more fully aware of what's going on, because it really felt good.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, that was a little bit of
a little lesson.
A little
I like
personal
it.
sidebar
I like
there.
it.
Yeah. So all of that is going on. You get on top of me. You're able to see what's going on, and
I was just enjoying the ride at that point.
Yeah, so we ended up finishing there, and they had already finished, I think.
Yeah.
So we had to get up and fight through the people and find,
because there were still people waiting.
Yeah, we had to find our clothes, and that's always fun. Is this yours? Is this looks like mine? And that's when it's been a good night.
I know. We did kind of throw stuff in the corner because we didn't want people to trample our stuff. So you couldn't leave it right at the edge of the mattress. We actually had to put it like in the corner behind this little table that had like bottles of water and condoms and lube on it and stuff.
Right. So we vacated the bed. I think everybody was pretty satisfied, and
yes,
we went back to our rooms, and
we had made plans to have breakfast with them the next morning.
Yeah. So the next morning. So that was that evening. Wow.
So it was I think we went to bed at like 3.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think that's the difference between the vanilla parties and the non-vanilla parties, because we went to a Christmas party with some vanilla friends.
Very dear, wonderful vanilla friends.
Yes. Yeah, we've known them for years
and years.
And
it was a fun evening.
Well, you can say that if you want.
It was.
All I remember is you ladies doing your ornament exchange, and I was falling asleep, and it was 9:30 at night on a Saturday night.
I know.
And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get through this. And I mean, we had a good time, and I like being with them, but it's just the difference in perspective now.
Now, I got to say, we do 5-hour energy shots before we do these crazy lifestyle events.
But I don't think that matters very much.
Well, it doesn't hurt. You throw that and some hormones in there, and I guess you're good to go.
So it's 3 a.m. anyway, and I'm still wide awake.
And we were still wide awake.
Right. So we went back to the room, and the next morning we met them, went to breakfast with them, enjoyed the morning after conversation.
Yeah, it was a beautiful morning. It was really cold outside, but we walked a couple blocks to this really cool restaurant and had like these exotic goat cheese, sun-dried tomato omelets, and they had really good coffee, and
yeah, it was really
and it was just really fun. So we talked about our kids, and so it's funny, you have like this wild and crazy sex with people, at 3:00 in the morning, and then at 10:00 in the morning, it's like, oh, well, what's your daughter majoring in college? And, and it was great. It was great. We have a lot in common with them, and they're just fantastic people.
Yeah. So we'll probably see them again. They're a couple hours away from us. Anyway, we got our things together, and we'll talk about the frustrated lady that we ran into.
Yeah. So the hotel was in the middle of the city, so you had to use their valet parking. There was there was no parking garage, no parking lot, no self park. So you had to surrender your ticket to the parking guy, and we literally waited over an hour for our car. That was really not cool, but you know how it is. Like the morning after, when you have like really, really good sex, all is right with the world. And yeah, we were not happy about waiting an hour for our car, but we were freshly fucked and we had like that really mellow aura about us.
And that's how most people were.
Yeah,
I mean, because
right.
we weren't the only ones waiting for our car, and everyone was kind of just sitting around.
There were probably like 30 people in the lobby just waiting for our cars. And yeah, and everybody was just kind of like, oh, this sucks. But we were laughing about it and reflecting, you know, and talking about how much fun we had the night before. And then there was this poor lady. She was frantic because she had been waiting for her car. And she was just ragging on this poor parking attendant. Well, how far is it to the lot? Can I walk there and get my own car? And she was just stomping inside and outside. And oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so that's when.
So Mr. Jones said, I think that she must be like really hungover or something. And I said, oh no. I said, I don't think she hooked up with anybody last night. And I think she's really sexually frustrated.
Yeah. Not only that, I don't think she had even sex with her husband last night the way.
No, I think she had pouted and just went to bed mad.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious.
And her husband was nowhere to be found. He was probably hiding somewhere because she was just like a wild woman, out of control.
We were laughing at that as being an indicator that she didn't get any last night because all the rest of us were just kind of sitting around mellow and bring the car when you can.
Yeah. Still basking in the glow.
So overall, before we wrap this segment up, it was a great party. Again, it was hosted by Sinnergy. We'll probably do that one again. There were a couple of things that we would say didn't go as well as could have.
Well, I know some people were really not impressed with the layout of the venue itself. You know, how we told you there were several smaller rooms. I think some people would have preferred that there was one large ballroom. Actually, Mr. Jones and I liked the way the venue was laid out because, like we said, we could find a place where the volume was low enough that you could have a nice conversation with people. So, you know, that part I'm not going to complain about. Waiting an hour for the car, not the greatest. We were in our little mellow state of mind, but we still would have liked to have gotten home. It took longer to wait for our car than it did to drive home.
Yeah, practically.
Yeah, so that was unfortunate. My biggest beef about the whole event was the wet spot situation. There were no people attending to the play area. So, you know, they had put cloth sheets on the bed. But when people would finish and get up, there was nobody making sure that the area was still sanitary. There were wipes in a couple different places, but they weren't easy to find. And then my biggest thing is if they would have just had towels from the hotel stacked up somewhere.
Or told us we could bring towels.
Or told us we could bring towels from our room, or that we should bring towels from our room. Then you could have laid your own towel down and it would have just been a more sanitary, comfortable situation. I hate to compare venues, but we did go to Naughty New Orleans last summer, and not only did they have like mountains of towels like that were taller than me that you were supposed to grab on your way in and then bins to throw them in on your way out. They also had people waiting, staff members waiting at the entrance to each playroom. And when people would get up and leave, they would go in and wipe the bed down and they would change the sheets.
Right.
So you had the fresh sheets with the wipes and the towels. And here they had neither of those. One or the other would have made me feel more comfortable.
Right.
So, that's just my critique of the event.
Yeah. So besides the wet sheets, which for a guy that didn't bother me as much as it bothered you.
It was icky.
But if you can't get into the right frame of mind,
right.
It affects me ultimately.
Right.
And so besides the car, waiting an hour for the car and the sheets, we had a good time. It was wonderful.
It was well done. That we really enjoyed listening to the speaker at the workshop I went to. There were 2 other workshops, and I heard those were both equally well attended and well received.
Right. So we hope that you all were able to enjoy New Year's in some shape, form, or fashion. If it wasn't at a party like that, hopefully you got to a local club or
just had really great sex with your significant other.
And what a great way to start.
If that's the worst thing that happened,
that's
all
right. That's right.
So to move into our last segment of the episode 4 here, we just want to again give our snapshots of certain things that we have experienced since we have talked to you last. And I think both of our snapshots this time have to do with our New Year's Eve party.
Yeah, so do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Yeah, because you have one this month. See,
I do have
month,
one, yeah. I kind of wussed out last month, and
Right.
actually the snapshots are my idea, so I don't know what happened to me
All
last
right.
time.
Well, you go first.
But I'm on this time.
Okay.
So if you guys remember back to a few minutes ago, we were telling you that when we were waiting at the bar, we met this lovely couple that just happened to be over inebriated, the nervous new couple that we were talking to. So one of the things the lady said to me, because eventually Mr. Jones and her husband did manage to bully their way up to the bar and try to get us cocktails. So she and I kind of waited back and let the guys do the elbowing up to the bar. And one of the things she said to me is, she said, how do you handle it when your husband is with another lady? Because she said, I'm really afraid to see my husband with another lady, that I'm going to freak out. And I said, well, I said, it's not easy. And I said, you need to kind of brace yourself, because it is kind of, shocking at first, but you just have to understand that he loves you and he's having sex with somebody else. And she said, oh, she said that, that is helpful. And she said, but look, so as we're having this conversation, there's a third couple that kind of comes into play. And this lady is adorable. And she is very aggressive, and she happens to be surrounding herself around this drunk lady that we've been talking to, her husband, who has gone up to the bar with Mr. Jones. She's literally wrapping herself around him. And she said, see, he's really attracted to her. And she said, obviously she's attracted to him because she's just all over him. And she said that scares me. And, I just tried to tell her, well, he's not really doing anything to encourage that. That's just this lady's style. And, and if you don't feel comfortable with that, you need to tell him. You just need to tell him. And he'll, hopefully respect you and understand that he can't interact with her. So she said, okay, oh, you made me feel so much better. So she left me to go up to the bar with her husband to kind of help her husband disentangle himself from this other lady. So in steps this lady wrapping herself around this guy. She has a husband as well. Her husband comes up to me, because now at this point I'm by myself. So this husband comes up to me and he starts chatting with me, and how long you've been in the lifestyle, have you ever been here before, the typical initial small talk. And so I said, well, we've been in lifestyle for about a year, and this is our first time at a New Year's Eve party. And he said, yeah, we've been doing this for like 6 years, and we've been to this party before. So I started asking him questions about it. And he said, so I would fuck you if you would let me. Or he said, or I would do anything else that you would let me do. I said, oh, okay, well, yeah. And he said, is that tall dude up at the bar your husband? And I said, yeah, that's my husband. And he said, oh, yeah, my wife would do him. And at this point, I'm like, oh, wow, this is really romantic. And so I looked at him and I said, well, thank you for the information. I mean, it was just really weird. I mean, he was just like so matter of fact about it. And he wasn't even like trying to put the moves on me. He was just saying that he would fuck me and that his wife would do my husband. I was like, okay, wow, thanks for the transaction.
Yeah.
That was just really funny.
Yeah, that was funny. Well, if he's been in the lifestyle 6 years, he should know that he can't really speak for his wife,
Well, right.
And say that.
And I wanted to say, and did you notice that your wife is completely wrapped around this other guy?
Yeah.
And yeah. So anyway, that was just weird.
Yeah. That was really funny.
Different approach.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's your snapshot. Was the guy who said,
yeah,
he would fuck you.
I could fuck you.
And I'm sure my wife would do him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, are you interested in my opinion of you?
Yeah.
But anyway, and he was actually pretty handsome, and his wife was beautiful, but yeah, I need a little bit of a different approach.
Yeah. That's funny. So then mine is, so back to the playroom when we were, I told you all that, I was laying in the middle of the bed and a lot was going on around me. And at the point in time where you were giving the gentleman a blowjob, and there was two couples that had stopped to watch, and they were leaning up against the wall. And so one couple specifically, he was leaning with his back against the wall, and he was watching you all. He was watching us all. And his wife had her back towards him and her ass like right in his crotch. And she was leaned up against him, pushed up against him, and she was watching as well. Well, that was okay because some people stop and would watch. But at one point in time, and I think it might have been when you were giving her one of her orgasms, or at some point in time, he started reaching around and cupping his wife's boobs in his hand, and she was reaching back and grabbing his crotch, and they were starting to get worked up. And then she turned around and went down and pulled his pants down and started giving him a blowjob right in front of everyone. And so what I'm seeing in my vision is, to my right are these two couples that are having sex, and these two really attractive ladies that were on top of their men. To my left, you're giving this guy a blowjob, and then beyond you all, this other woman is giving her husband a blowjob because he's so turned on that he's watching you all and he's watching us. And that just, I could have just, if I could have snapped that shot and just kept it in my head, which I've done, but just that in and of itself reminds me. It was visual. It was, you could smell it, sex in the air. You could sense it. You could hear people. And I was watching people who were turned on by you and turned on by everything that was going on. And, that was, and they didn't need to be on the bed. They were just simply, and maybe, that they were new to this or whatever. Maybe this first time they've ever seen it, who knows? But they were definitely, and they were very respectful about it, but boy, they were just going at each other. And the source of it all was them having watched
the four of us, right? Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I think it's a lot more than cool.
It was hot. Sorry, not cool. It was hot.
Right. So that's our snapshots. And so before we end episode 4, we're starting to get some correspondence and emails from people who are listening, and we really do appreciate that. And so what we're going to do, we're getting a lot of questions, and instead of doing one show of just kind of listener feedback and questions, Mrs. Jones, you had the idea that maybe at the end of each segment we could take one of the questions and just try to answer it. And so what we've decided to do this session was to take a question, and we both agreed that we would look at the question that we were going to ask, but we didn't discuss this ahead of time. I don't know what your answer is going to be, and you don't know what kind of my response is going to be. So anyway, we're going to end by a question that some of our new friends sent in, specifically around specifically around bisexuality. So the question was, did we discuss bisexuality ahead of time, or did it just happen? And did you have any prior bisexual experiences?
So do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we only discussed bisexuality as in I could fulfill one of Mr. Jones's fantasies by finding a woman to kind of just, hook up and make out with, and he could watch, and that would kind of like be something I could check off the list. And I never really, I honestly never really thought about being with another woman as in it would fulfill one of my fantasies. I honestly don't have a big fantasy life. I don't know why. I think I have a pretty sexually charged libido, but I just don't. I think I'm very much an exhibitionist and a voyeur, and I just need to have other people stimulate my imagination. I don't really I'm not self-stimulated, I guess, with just me, myself, and I. So I never really thought about it for myself. It was always something I wanted to do to help Mr. Jones fulfill a fantasy of his. So then when we were at Desire last year and I met this lady, I started kissing her and I realized it wasn't going to be repulsive, that it was like really soft and sensual and sexy. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to be as bad as I thought it was going to be. And that sounds awful to say, but that's how I really felt going into it. I didn't know how I was going to react. And, you know, society always tells you those kinds of feelings are wrong. So I think I just had that ingrained in my mind, especially because I'm not 20 years old anymore. So I've had a long time to have that perception. So when I started kissing her and I really started enjoying it, that was really kind of a shock for me. So it wasn't something that I planned. So my story is really not very exciting. I didn't plan it, but it turned out to be a really unexpected enhancement to my sexual experiences. As far as like how it fits in the scheme of an evening when we're with another couple, I really enjoy starting out by playing with another woman, but really it's foreplay for me. It doesn't really become the focal point of my evening. It really is foreplay, and I really enjoy interacting with, you know, her significant other, you know, just as much as her. And being with a man is really what kind of pushes me over the top. I mean, a woman can give me an orgasm when we're playing together, but it's the excitement of being with another man that is the taboo in my mind. Maybe because I've been with Mr. Jones for so long. Being with a woman is so different, but being with another man is so taboo because it's something I haven't done, you know, over half my life.
Right.
Until we started into the lifestyle.
Right. So I guess if I were this person asking a question, I think what you just said is we didn't discuss it ahead of time to that degree. We didn't know. But you trusted our relationship enough and our decision to move forward in this to give it a try. And then what you've learned from that was it was something that you very much enjoy, but it's not your kind of a primary, you know, trigger.
No, and if we ran into a couple where the woman was not interested in interacting with me, that would be okay.
Right.
It wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. So I don't want to say I can take it or leave it because that sounds really insensitive, but it's something that I enjoy, but it's not something I have to have.
Right. And I think for a lot of guys out there, maybe who, like me, would have loved to kind of coerce you into doing this earlier, because from selfishly, that was because what I wanted to see. But I think what we've both learned is, yeah, I love watching that, but I also, you know, think that you enjoy that to a certain degree now too.
I do.
Right?
And another thing I do want to say is that while it's not my primary motivator, I wouldn't interact it with another woman if I wasn't attracted to her.
Right.
I wouldn't do it just for you so that you could watch. So it is something that, you know, I guess I am doing for myself as well.
Right.
And I just encourage everybody to understand that, you know, you really don't ever want to do something just for your spouse. So that was really kind of a lesson learned and an evolution on my part.
Right. So then you had no prior bi experiences?
No,
right?
not at all.
Right.
I mean, you know, when that song "I Kissed a Girl" and I liked it came out, I thought, oh my gosh, you know, that's just so foreign to me.
Right.
You know, I liked the song, but I couldn't relate to it. Well, now I really, really like the song.
Right.
Because it has meaning.
Right. So I guess, unfortunately, that, you know, our story is our story and your story is your story. And that doesn't mean that that's how it's going to be for somebody else, but it also, you know, is a very good story because you know, it turned into a whole lot more than
a very unexpected surprise.
Yeah. So anyway, hopefully you all out there will give it a shot.
Hey, if anybody has a more exciting story than mine, share it with us.
Yeah, really.
We would love to hear it.
So along the lines of bisexuality, even though I know that this question was pointed towards you and towards female bisexuality, I just wanted to mention that We did go out. We met a couple in SLS and had dinner with them. And in his profile, he said bi-curious.
Right.
And so I asked about that when we were with them. And, he explained what that was. We didn't end up playing with them, and I don't think we will, just because the chemistry's not there. But it would not have deterred me from interacting with them, because he was very matter of fact about it and said, look, if somebody else is interested in this particular thing, and it wasn't intercourse, maybe it was oral sex, he would be interested in it. But I think in the lifestyle, what we've read and what we've heard, I hope that more guys are a little bit less judgmental about other men who either are curious about that, bi-curious or bisexual, and not just, be all uptight about, oh, that's not me, I don't want to even be around you. Because this lifestyle really is full of people who are open-minded and non-judgmental. And I hope that there are men out there that feel free to express that, freely, and then have an opportunity to have people not judge them and say, well, I'd never even want to go out to dinner with them just because he's bi-curious. That kind of wigs me out a little bit. So
no, and that's one of the things you have to determine is, is the couple going to be trustworthy? If the man is curious and he knows you're not,
right.
You have to trust that he's going to respect how you feel
right.
as well.
Right. And listening to...
And then you can have a good experience, and I have to have that in the back of your mind the whole
right.
time. And
listening to his story about why he was curious was really enlightening to me, because, it's not me. I mean, I'm straight, but it's very interesting to hear people's stories. So anyway, I thought I would throw that kind of from a male perspective, the question about, bi experiences too. So anyway, hopefully that helps answer the question. You got that question from a couple different people, so I thought we would start with that one.
So another question we've gotten a lot from a couple different people that I think is going to be kind of our focus on our next episode is the whole soft swap issue. Are we soft swap as in never going to become full swap, or are we soft swap as a stepstone to becoming full swap? What's our motivation behind what our boundaries are at this point in time? So I think that question is worth a little bit more than 5 minutes of our time. So I think we're going to kind of focus on that. And I think Mr. Jones and I want to have a conversation, because boundaries evolve as you journey through the lifestyle. And, we kind of want to just talk about, where we are now and where are we going to be headed?
Right. So I think what Mrs. Jones is saying is, maybe to make it a bit clearer, it's something that is beginning to come up in our conversations now about, should we talk about full swap? But we haven't really talked about it. But since we're getting these questions, what we want to do in episode 5 is Mrs. Jones and I are going to have that conversation on our podcast. So we're not going to rehearse. We're not going to have this notes put together and say, oh, well, have this conversation and then come back and tell you what we talked about. We want to just see how it goes with having a conversation about this issue, and hopefully it'll be entertaining and we'll make it through. But I think we will. I think it'll be
our first on-air fight. No, I'm kidding.
Right. Discussion, we like to call it.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's a little bit of a preview for episode 5. Before we go, we're not going to, I'm not going to, list our contact information every podcast again. Just remember our website is wegotathing.com. All of our contact information is there if you want to follow us, and our emails, wegotathing@gmail.com. Everything else, please go to our website and you'll find everything there. So in closing, we wanted to give just a couple of shout outs. First of all, to Mr. and Mrs. Swanilla from Beyond Our Bedroom. They've reached out to us and we've communicated with them, and they have a really great blog. So if you want to check them out, they're at beyondourbedroom.blogspot.com, or if you just search for Beyond Our Bedroom, check out their site. We think that they're very good storytellers, so check them out. And then one more shout out, and this is to the state of Indiana. My profession, I'm in the analytics profession. And so as these statistics come in from people who are downloading, and all of that's very fascinating to me. But when I see all of a sudden the state of Indiana has 3 times more downloads than anybody else.
And we don't know anybody in the state of Indiana.
Yeah. So whatever's going on in Indiana, we just want to shout out to just the state of Indiana.
We might need to visit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of swingers in Indiana.
So anyway, shout out to you all in Indiana. Thank you for that. So, and thank you also, just a general shout out. Last time we only had one review in iTunes, and we said if you wanted to get us a Christmas gift, we'd love an iTunes review. So we got 2 more, so we're up to 3. And I know it's a pain in the butt to do that because I've done that before, and you have to go into your iTunes account, you have to create a nickname, and Apple doesn't make it very easy to do that. So we appreciate the 3 reviews that we have, and if anyone feels led to do so, it would be great to get a couple more, but wanted to say thank you for that. So that about that wraps it up for episode 4, and we'll get this out again before the end of January 2015, and
we'll see what trouble we can get into for next month.
We will. So thanks for listening. We are Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and we got a thing.
What's your thing?
Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm Mr. Jones.
And I'm Mrs. Jones.
And we want to welcome you to episode number 4 of the We Gotta Swing podcast.
You just said we gotta swing.
I did.
Yes.
We get another outtake.